Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be talking about an intensifying storm that'll bring a risk for severe weather over the next several days, including the risk for significant damaging winds, large to very large hail, and even a few tornadoes. There's also a significant flooding threat tonight that will be breaking down this forecast. I'll give you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, but let's first begin with what's happening across the United States today. Well, first begin with the Ohio Valley. That is where a massive area of storms has been ongoing all day today. We were actually live streaming this not too long ago, and it's moving down to the south and east, producing tons of damaging winds and as well as a lot of rainfall, which is a huge concern, by the way, because excessive rainfall is expected in a large chunk of the Ohio Valley tonight. I'll show you where those areas are in more depth and as well as who could see as much as 10 inches of rainfall. It's going to be a very active overnight tonight. Now, back further to the north, we have a low pressure system spinning up in southern Canada, and what this is going to do over the next couple of days is move further to the east. It's actually bringing a risk for severe weather already in the northern plains today, with damaging winds, a little bit of large hail, and maybe even an isolated tornado. But over the next couple of days, this will actually move toward the Midwest. So once we go into tomorrow and as well as going into Thursday, there will be a risk for some severe weather across areas like the Midwest and the Ohio Valley and even the Central Plains. It's going to be a very large area, I'll just say that. We'll talk about more details on that in just a moment. And then back over on the East Coast, the low pressure system still spinning in northeast Canada. This is allowing for some showers and storms spanning from the northeast all the way back down through Florida. Still very active over there, but overall the United States is in a very active state of mind right now. There's a lot of storm activity, and it's because of this very active jet stream that we have. We currently have a train of storms that's literally going here across the northern and central United States. So let's talk about the jet stream more in detail here. Beginning with Canada, that's where our low pressure system is currently located. The other low pressure system that brought extreme flooding days ago to areas in the northeast, still sitting up there, but it is now starting to move out. And then our massive heat dome in the southern plains, for those back down in Texas and DFW today, DFW reached a high temperature of 108 degrees today, so very hot weather there, near record breaking, by the way. And this heat dome is not going anywhere. That heat is just going to continue. Our jet stream right now is located right here where those purples meet. Basically, that is where the jet stream is currently located, with the strongest upper level winds. Now, over the next few days, this jet stream will become a bit flatter, but you'll notice that low pressure system will move into areas like Michigan. So this will allow for a chance for some showers and storms again in the northeast as we go into the later half of this week by around Thursday into Friday. Heat dome doesn't move really hardly an inch. It's going to sit there. Heat is going to be on across those areas. Make sure if you do go outdoors, you are limiting your outdoor time, because it'll be very hot in many areas. Could lead to heat stroke or any sort of heat illness. So just make sure that you're staying safe there. And then once we go into the weekend, that's when the jet stream becomes a bit more disorganized, but it actually becomes meridional again, where it's more of a curvature jet stream. So it'll span from the northwest United States back down and dipping as far south and east as areas like Georgia and maybe even into Alabama. And it'll eventually go back up into the areas like the northeast. But you'll notice that jet stream, that big dip there, that'll allow for that trough to start to bring some showers and storms along the east coast. But that heat ridge will start to dominate more than anything down in the southwest United States. This will allow for a cool down in areas like the southeast and as well as parts of the southern plains, including DFW, because of that dip in the jet stream. It will allow for some cooler weather. So nice stuff there. But once we go into next week, that heat dome, unfortunately, is going to move right back into areas like the southern plains. So things are not going to look very good. But at least for the weekend, there will be some relief for those in the southern plains. Meanwhile, the jet stream will be lifted very far off to the north. So overall, since the jet stream has just lifted so far off to the north, that should allow for the severe weather threat for the end of July to be at a fairly low-end risk across most of the United States. Now, there will be chances for severe weather. Just overall, we're not looking at any large-scale severe weather outbreaks. So that's at least some good news there. Now, let's talk more about the severe weather potential and the extreme flooding potential for today. We're going to do both in the same segment here. We do have a severe weather risk currently across areas like the Ohio Valley, as well as down into the Dixie Alley, and as well as the northern plains. All of the severe weather action is really happening right now. So really, if you're watching the forecast, it's probably already happening. Currently, the main concerns, though, for the rest of this evening are damaging winds. Large to very large hail are possible across areas in the northern plains, and as well as back down in Missouri. There is going to be another round of storms here pretty soon that'll produce the threat for some large to very large hail. Tornado risk, it's fairly low for the rest of this evening. There's maybe an isolated tornado risk back down in areas like Tennessee and southeast Missouri, but overall the risk of that, in my opinion, is very low. There might be a brief tornado, but it should remain very quiet in terms of at least the tornado risk. But the biggest concern for tonight is the extreme flooding threat. We currently have a moderate risk for excessive rainfall across areas like western Kentucky, northwest sections of Tennessee, southern Illinois, and as well as southeast Missouri. And anywhere in this region, you definitely want to make sure you are taking this threat seriously tonight. And the main reason why is because watch the future radar for the next several hours. So going into the evening hours, storms will continue to move down to the south and east through areas like Tennessee and Alabama. Notice right around 9-10 o'clock tonight, storms are going to fire off here across Missouri, through Kentucky, and as well as into northwest Tennessee. And this area of storms will turn into a legitimate train. It's going to literally just be on and on and on storms throughout the late evening and into the overnight hours. This is midnight. Storms are barely going to move. They might shift to the slightest bit to the east, but they're going to continue developing north to south, and that's going to create some serious issues in terms of flooding. Now, back near St. Louis, the issue shouldn't be nearly as bad in terms of the flooding risk. That's why there's a slight risk up there instead of the moderate risk of flash flooding. But look, overnight tonight, those storms really do not move hardly at all in western Kentucky, and that is a huge concern for flooding overnight. And then look at tomorrow morning. It doesn't end there. By 9 and 10 in the morning, we are still going to be watching for storm activity there, and this is really just going to be very concerning for the flooding threat. And then in terms of rainfall estimates for tonight, we are talking about the threat for some rainfall totals to get as high as 4 to 8 inches in some areas. There is even a chance near Paducah, Kentucky, we could see a couple areas get near 10 inches of rainfall overnight. That could cause some flash flooding. You're definitely going to want to make sure you're staying weather aware. If you have a weather radio, make sure it's charged up and ready to go. Have your phones ready just in case there's any sort of warnings overnight, because we very well could see some significant flash flooding here. You're going to want to make sure you're staying weather aware. Elsewhere, there is a chance for isolated flash flooding, for example, near Somerset, but overall the risk of that is a bit lower the further east you go, and as well as the further west you go from that main bullseye area that'll be in western Kentucky. Now, going into tomorrow, there is a severe weather threat back in the Midwest. I might go live for this, so make sure that you do click the bell icon down below and subscribe to the YouTube channel. But as of right now, there's a slight risk of severe weather from the Midwest back into areas like the Central Plains. Current risk for tomorrow, that's the main concern, is large to very large hail. We will have that chance near Minneapolis and as well as back into areas like Nebraska. This is where we're going to be watching for hail as large as tennis balls. So make sure that you are protecting your vehicle tomorrow afternoon. The other concern will be the risk for a couple of tornadoes, and we have 3 areas to watch for, one of which is over in Kentucky and Tennessee, another one back in Wisconsin and Minnesota, and then over in central and eastern Nebraska. 3 separate areas. Wouldn't be surprised if the tornado risk near Minnesota actually gets upgraded to a 5% probability, but overall I still think the risk does stay on the lower side of things for tomorrow. For the timing, storms will fire up during the afternoon hours. You'll notice supercells firing off west of Minneapolis. Look how intense those look by the afternoon. That's what we're going to be watching for tomorrow, for damaging winds and large hail, and again possibly a couple tornadoes as well. Eventually going through the mid-afternoon, right around 5 o'clock, storms rolling through the Minneapolis region, and eventually going closer to 6 to 7 o'clock, storms are going to be going into Wisconsin. They should weaken out quite a bit when they get to Wisconsin, but there might still be some damaging winds, perhaps a little bit of large hail, and then eventually going into the overnight hours, all that activity does weaken off there. For tossing trampolines on trees Thursday, we do currently have a large area to watch for. Slight risk back over in the Ohio Valley, another slight risk in the Central Plains, and then another one back over in the southeast United States near the mid-Atlantic. We will talk about more on this, though, in our next forecast. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like the button down below and subscribe if you've not already.